30 people, including children, were injured in Munich, Germany, after a car plowed into a crowd of demonstrators. Officials are calling it a suspected attack, saying there are indications the suspect may have had a, quote, extremist background.
With more, we are joined by retired Marine Intelligence Officer Hal Kempfer. Hal, good to see you always. At this early stage, officers treating this incident as a suspected attack. The driver has been ID'd as an asylum seeker from Afghanistan who has been in Germany since 2016, who may have extremist views. What is your initial assessment?
Well, the attacker, they haven't given his full name. They call him Farhad N, a 24-year-old Afghan. He was an asylum seeker, but he was in Germany, got involved with a couple of crimes. So he's on a list to be basically deported back to Afghanistan at some point in the future. Right now, the German authorities are investigating it like they would investigate terrorism. And there's a lot of discussion within there that they have reason to believe it was terrorism, violent extremism, that he could have been a, quote, jihadist. They're just not sure who he's connected to. But high on the list, of course, is ISIS, and just below that is Al Qaeda. And they're looking to see who he was talking to, who he's connected to. And, of course, this is not the first vehicle attack in Germany. They've had a spate of these. The most recent one, a deadly one, just happened in December.
You mentioned ISIS, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about what the situation is with ISIS and Al Qaeda right now. Are they resurgent?
Cher, that's a great question. You know, if you look at it from their standpoint, ISIS did a big attack in Iran. They did a big attack in Russia. And then, of course, Syria, backed by Russia and Iran, fell to a group that was led by somebody who used to lead Al Qaeda, or an Al Qaeda affiliate, I should say, in Syria, tied to the original founder of ISIS. So from an ISIS standpoint and Al Qaeda standpoint, they're kind of seeing wind in their sails. And of course, if you go further back, you see where the U.S. Pulled out of Afghanistan, and there's a variety of other things. They see where the French have pulled out of various parts of Africa. And so, yes, it is fair to say that they at least mentally think that they're resurgent, and there is some, shall we say, battlefield dynamics, some things happening in Africa, the Middle East, and elsewhere to indicate that they are kind of in a growth pattern right now.
Hal, back to the situation in Munich. It's happening as Vice President J.D. Vance and other world leaders are in Munich, as you know, for the high-level security conference. Authorities do not believe the attack and the summit are connected at this point, but does it raise any alarm bells for you?
Well, Micah, it does, because, of course, you have, the vice president is going in there. You have Secretary Rubio going in there. You have a bunch of other world leaders that will be there for the Munich Security Conference, one of the biggest events every year in the world of security, falling on the heels of what just happened with the Ukraine Coordination Group conference. And with that, everybody is leaning forward on security just because the number of folks there. And then you see this deadly attack. And, of course, it's got them thinking. And don't forget, this type of attack is something they've seen in Europe before. They've got, obviously moving people around the city. They've got motorcades. They've got all kinds of stuff going on. So, yes, it's got me kind of looking at what could happen. The other thing, it's in the backdrop, and I'm not saying it's connected to this, is there's been a dramatic increase in the last few years of hybrid warfare activities tied to Russia, and Russia using third parties to do various attacks. That has got to be playing in the back of the minds of a number of security officials in Germany and elsewhere.
We have about a minute left, Hal. So Vance is set to meet Friday in Munich with Ukraine's President Zelensky. This as President Trump has spoken with both Zelensky and Russia's Vladimir Putin, saying both want peace nearly 3 years after this war. Do you see a possible resolution to this conflict on the horizon?
Well, it does look like they're seriously getting involved with setting up something that'll be in negotiations. Of course, the big concern that the Europeans had coming out of yesterday, which seems to have been somewhat assuaged today, or at least walked back, is that the Europeans and the Ukrainians might be sidelined in a discussion between the U.S. and Russia. Now, that was something that came out of Secretary Hegseth, the Defense Secretary's Hegseth's comments on Wednesday, and then today he kind of walked that back a little bit, changed the tone, and the White House did as well. So I think what you're going to see is maybe a discussion on where do we go from here, how this might come about, and some very constructive things of how to work with the European allies and Ukraine, since we're all going to be there, trying to figure out how this would be done.
Good insight as always. Retired Marine Intelligence Officer and host of the Strat podcast, Hal Kempfer. Thanks for being with us.
Micah, Cher, thank you.